So now that you understand all of the problems that synchronization can cause, I would like to show you how to fix those problems. Selenium WebDriver offers us a few different methods of dealing with different types of synchronization problems. One of the first methods, and one of the simplest methods, is known as an implicit wait. So, what an implicit wait is where you tell the Selenium WebDriver to poll the DOM of the application under test until an element is returned. The idea of an implicit wait was actually taken from Water by Selenium, and the way an implicit wait works and why it's called that way is actually defined in the driver, where you're going to have your driver dot manage dot timeouts dot implicitly wait. And so it's actually a method on the WebDriver for us to be able to implicitly wait. And then it takes an argument called the time span, and the time span gives us many different properties that we can define. One of the most commonly used is time span dot from seconds. So basically it takes the current time, and from the current time, from seconds, we can do something like 5. So from the current time right now is going to wait for 5 seconds. And so this right here, it defines an implicit wait for the WebDriver. And so what it's going to do is whenever you set this up, driver is going to poll for the element for 5 seconds until it throws an exception. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that when you set this implicit wait, it is set for the lifetime of the driver. So, if you define it for 5 seconds for one web page, then it's going to stay at 5 seconds for all web pages. If you need 10 seconds somewhere down the road, you need to change that, and then it's going to continue to last for 10 seconds until you change it elsewhere. So it lives for the lifetime of the driver. And one other thing that I wanted to say is that before you even set this timeout, the default is actually 0 seconds. And that's why when we saw our code here, right, when it was looking for the find element, the default for the implicit wait timeout is 0, and so that was quickly coming back as element not found and throwing our exception. So what are some advantages of these implicit waits? Well, an advantage of the implicit wait is that it's very easy to use. It's easy to use, and it allows us to quickly fix problems in our tests. The disadvantage is that it creates long static waits, increasing the test runtime. Right? So let's say I set up our implicit wait timeout for 5 seconds, but the element loads in 1 second. Therefore, I am wasting 4 seconds running for that duration when I don't really need to do that. Or an even better example is, imagine we had one really slow loading web element where we needed to set the timeout to 30 seconds, right? And then all our other elements perform like normal, and maybe, even 1 second of waiting is enough. So if you didn't implicitly reset your timeout to 1 second after that 30 seconds, your test is going to continue to poll for that length of time for all of your elements. And the worst part is if you're running it in a slower environment like dev, which is usually slower than production, because production, right, you'll have more servers, then 30 seconds may not even be enough, right? Maybe you will need 45 seconds. And so that's, again, when you start getting into the intermittent test failures where it runs on locally, but then when you promote it to dev or maybe even test, for whatever reason your test may be slow, then you're going to start having those failures, intermittent failures, and you're not going to be understanding why. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the code to put this theory into practice.